NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It's the Western military alliance that the three Baltic nations worked so hard to join throughout the 1990s and early 2000s. Their persistence paid off as Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia joined the alliance in March 2004. To this day, these countries annually commemorate and celebrate the day that they joined NATO. These days, however, the alliance finds itself with an uncertain future, as doubts have been raised about US commitment in the organization. While American officials have made reassurances that there are no plans to leave NATO, Europe has been reportedly working on somewhat of a backup plan in the event that the alliance's strongest member decides to leave. So on March 21, 2025, several media outlets reported that Europe's biggest military powers were drawing up plans to take on greater responsibilities for the continent's defense from the United States. Such plans were said to even include a pitch to the Trump administration for a managed transfer over the next 5 to 10 years. Apparently, it was the Financial Times newspaper that first reported on the topic, which said its sources were 4 European officials involved in the talks. According to reports, the United Kingdom, France, Germany and the Nordic countries were or are among those engaged in the informal but structured discussions that would see a drastically different NATO, one that may not include the United States in the future. The talks are merely a precaution, but with a somewhat unpredictable American administration in office right now, it would seem wise to plan for such extreme scenarios. Reports note that such discussions are an attempt to avoid possible chaos should the US unilaterally declare its withdrawal from the Transatlantic Security Alliance, an alliance that has protected Europe for the past 80 years. At the time of making this video, the United States has a presence throughout the Baltics, with various battalions or squadrons based in the countries bordering Russia and Belarus. These units are in place at the request of the host nations, standing as a deterrent to Russian aggression. Some of these are not specifically NATO deployments, although the United States is the lead/framework nation for NATO's multinational battle group in Poland. Speaking of Poland, we can see with this graphic that the US has a widespread presence throughout the Central/Eastern European nation, some of it under NATO, some of it independent of NATO cooperation. Getting back to the report, the Financial Times report said it would take an estimated 5 to 10 years of increased spending to raise European capabilities to a level where they could replace most US competences. The Europeans reportedly want to present this plan to the US ahead of NATO's annual Leaders Summit in The Hague in June. Perhaps by the time you're watching this, the presentation will have already happened. In early April, American Secretary of State Marco Rubio publicly reassured allies of his country's commitment to NATO. This took place at a meeting of NATO foreign affairs ministers, with Rubio saying, "The United States President Trump's made clear he supports NATO. We're going to remain in NATO. The only way NATO can get stronger and more viable is if our partners, the nation-states that comprise this important alliance, have more capability." Doing our best to frame everything in a non-partisan manner and state the facts and what has actually happened, we know that Trump's position on NATO is far from steadfast and unconditional. It was the US president who publicly told his supporters that if an ally was attacked by Russia, he would actually encourage such an attack to happen if this country didn't take their defense spending seriously.
No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
Trump administration has also been much more open to talks and negotiations with Russia and Vladimir Putin over ending the conflict in Ukraine, even if that means Ukraine ends up losing part of its pre-invasion territory. While the goal to end deadly conflict can be appreciated, negotiating with a Russian government that has lied about its intentions time and time again and allowing it to keep its annexed territory would also set a bad precedent, something that most European leaders understand. We also know how some key members of the Trump administration feel about European security, through what was disclosed in those leaked signal messages. Part of the chat had US Vice President J.D. Vance saying, "I just hate bailing out Europe again." Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth responded to this saying, "I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's, all caps, pathetic." In a way, these US officials are correct about Europe having underspent on defense for the past few decades. In their defense, no pun intended, Relations with Russia throughout the 1990s were improving, and there was a hope by many that economic relations and strong trade ties with Russia would be a key way to ensure that it would play nice, out of fear of losing its economic prosperity and development. Along with this perspective, the United States defense budget is kept large due to a strong military-industrial complex and its lobbying efforts, as well as the country's assumed role as global hegemon and world police. So, sure, Europe has spent a lot less on military development and sustainment, but, well, no country on the continent has the same global presence as the United States, with its dozens of bases all over the world. But before we stray too far off from the main topic of this video, Trump's moves over the past few months have certainly been an abrupt wake-up call for the European continent, a clear reminder that huge policy shifts can happen when administrations change due to elections. It does seem like a wise move for key European NATO members to consider all possibilities, including a North Atlantic alliance without the United States. Of course, with the envisioned managed transfer of 5 to 10 years, it may also mean that plans will be irrelevant when Trump's term is over, if the next president has a different idea of foreign policy. Then again, with the US president telling the media that he would try and find a way to seek a third, unconstitutional term in office, well, truly anything can happen. So, what do you think of the prospect of the United States one day leaving the NATO alliance? What do you think are the chances of this happening? Let us know by leaving a comment.